Good evening and welcome to Special Assignment. I'm Ashraf Garda. The Niger Delta in Nigeria is one of Africa's leading oil-producing regions, but it's been engulfed in fighting for decades. However, the launch of the Niger Delta Amnesty Program in 2009 marked the end of the war. Under this deal, the former militants from the rebel group Movement for the Emancipation of the Niger Delta were to be sent to various countries for rehabilitation and skills training in exchange for their surrender. One of those countries is South Africa. But our investigation has uncovered serious problems in the implementation of this program in the country. Producer Peter Moya was sent on special assignment to get some answers.
I hereby grant amnesty and unconditional pardon.
It was a deal meant to end a long-running insurrection in Nigeria's oil-rich Niger Delta.
Altogether, 26,358 youths of the Niger Delta area of Nigeria accepted the amnesty program.
Thousands of these former militants would be sent for skills training to countries like South Africa under the Niger Delta Amnesty Program.
Some of them will tell you that, landlord, I can kill.
It really became a playground for monies being exchanged in front of us, without by senior government officials in Nigeria.
But how did it all go wrong? Percy is not a happy man. The past 6 months have left him on the brink of a nervous breakdown. He is the owner of this majestic 120-roomed hotel on the N1 highway in Midrand, Johannesburg. From the outside, everything looks peaceful and calm, a picture of cleanliness and quality.
I'm the owner of United Hotel. The hotel, as you see the condition now, is completely run down by the Niger Delta ex-militants.
When Percy Sibia was first contacted to book 80 guests from Nigeria, he could not help but thank his lucky stars. After all, this was a multi-million rand deal that was to keep his hotel full for the next 6 months. Did he know the background of his new guests?
No. I was just told that these are students coming for exchange of skills. Now, I never expected ex-militants.
What he had not been told was that his new guests were war-hardened Niger Delta militants, the first batch in the country for skills training.
After they have arrived here, I then discovered the nature of violence in these people. They were very violent, very, 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 very violent, very brutal. The first day they arrived here, one of my gardeners was assaulted and he disappeared that day. He never, as long as they were here, he never wanted to come back to the hotel. He says, boss, please, as long as
this was just the beginning of Percy's nightmare.
But they were just as raw as they are, from the bushes. And some of them will tell you that, landlord, I can kill. You landlord, you don't know. I kill. Then they will show you even cell phone photos where there are, despicable photos of people that have been killed. You think maybe he downloaded it in an internet, but you realize that this person can't even write his name.
The hotel was soon turned into a brothel, where drug dealing and prostitution were the order of the day. Staff at the hotel were also ordered to stop cleaning the rooms. Those who did not conform were dealt with.
They will assault them, break the machines that cleans the room, all the hoovers broken, everything. And then nobody must clean. They said, no, we're fine, we don't want anybody to clean.
He had to watch helplessly as his hotel fell apart.
They were breaking and they enjoyed dirtiness. But you wouldn't be surprised because they're coming from the bush. They're just fresh from the bush. So to them, what you call this dirtiness, to them is normal. Some of them will just wee and shit in the bus when it's taking them to school, or coming back to the hotel. Now you ask yourself, in the room, some of the rooms, you'll find they've they've shitted in the rooms, but the toilet is just here. Then you ask who was doing this, and landlord, just call the people to clean. Just call the people to clean. You don't have to ask questions. We pay here, the government pay here.
Soon, the hotel property started to go missing. Anything of value sold to pay for services rendered by prostitutes who were now regulars at the hotel.
But at the end of the day, most of the rooms are broken. About 60 TVs have been stolen. And look at the pool. They will just throw things there, throw things there. And they don't want anybody to clean.
But why was Percy seemingly powerless to take any action against these militants?
The nature of everything that was happening here was really above my shoulders. You lay a charge by the police station, they come and arrest the person, and then he's being charged. When he arrives at the court, and then they will tell you the embassy has found that person must be released. And that person, they will communicate with the prosecutor there, and then the person gets released. When you go to, I went personally to the prosecutor to find out how was he released. Then he says, well, they said he can't speak English, so they have to release him. They can't hear him. I said, but there are so many interpreters.
Where does this all begin? It dates back to 2009 when the rebel group Movement for the Emancipation of the Niger Delta and the Nigerian government finally reached a deal to end a war over distribution of oil resources and lack of development in the region.
I hereby grant amnesty and unconditional pardon to all persons who have directly or indirectly participated in the commission of offenses associated with militant activities in the Niger Delta.
The Institute of Security Studies, or ISS, says this move seems to have brought the much-needed stability in Africa's largest oil producer.
Yar'Adua really thought that a bold approach is needed and that the military response to the problem was not going to be sufficient. So there will be a need to really call upon the militants to surrender and to be part of the amnesty program, and whoever volunteers to surrender its weapon will be actually exonerated from criminal prosecutions, but also will be offered opportunities, socio-economic opportunities for reintegration in the social structure.
Within weeks, thousands had heeded the amnesty call, paving way for the reconstruction of the oil-rich basin to begin.
Altogether, 26,358 youths of the Niger Delta area of Nigeria accepted the amnesty program. And having dropped their arms and accepted amnesty, these young men have been put through a non-violent education program. South Africa, even in that sense, was involved from the King Lutili Center.
Most of these former militants are now enrolled at learning institutions across the globe, including South Africa.
But I think there is a need to consolidate the approach and to make sure that South Africa is clear about the conditions under which the militants are taken into South Africa and their commitment to respect the rule and the regulations of the country where they are getting those skills or professional training from, not to endanger South Africa's own national security or the security of the individual South African citizen or any other citizen.
So how did it all go wrong? Let's find out after this.
These two South African businessmen share a familiar story, one that involves two Nigerian companies contracted to bring militants into the country. They were to become strategic partners to their Nigerian counterparts.
My role was to identify a service provider that will train them on mobile crane, forklifting, and a pipe welding, and which I have done that. And also my role, it was also to identify accommodation and companies that will then facilitate other services such as transport, catering, and so forth, which that was done.
After dealing with another Nigerian company called Hadnovo, Andrew Kunene was alerted that his company logo was now being used to print fraudulent visa invitation letters for the militants. He immediately called the police.
I received a call from a gentleman, Ovu, who is the founder, and the director of Hadnovo, who said he was begging and pleading with me not to cancel the whole thing because I didn't quite feel happy I thought it was, fraud.
When Kunene decided to give them a second chance, he immediately received about 50 militants for training at a cost of $450,000. Only a fraction was paid as deposit. Meanwhile, Marcus had already entered into a strategic partnership with another company called Westgate.
We were properly briefed that these are ex-militant or rebels from the Niger Delta. And we were also informed that these are people that the training is aiming at skilling young people, those young people of ex-militants from the Nigeria Delta Niger. And we were also informed that the program is seeking to rehabilitate them back into the society, and also hoping that once they finish the program, they will be reintegrated in society. They'll also be reintegrated and be into the working force within the oil industry or oil companies in Nigeria.
Westgate is run by two men, George Udo and Timothy Ademola. As soon as the deal was signed, Marcus got down to work.
We identified a place clear on the instruction that we have received in terms of the type of people that we are getting into the country. We were told that they are very extremely dangerous. These are the people that were used in terms of holding people hostage in Nigeria. And when we then got the full brief, we then allocated accommodation that will also provide training on site.
However, this did not go down well with the militants. The moment they arrived in the country, they demanded a change.
They've made a claim that they are from areas that are like the bush, and they didn't come to South Africa to experience another bush. They want to be with thin people. They made it very clear at that time that they are here to experience South African women. And that's the reason that they were removed.
On the instruction of Nigerian government officials, the militants were then moved into places like United Hotels in Midrand.
They were then taken to United Hotel. And when they were taken to the United Hotel, we must understand at that time that we were then against that in a legal battle of my company being sued almost close to 5 million because of the breach of contract with the service providers of accommodation. And that's when our trouble started.
Marcus reveals that at their first meeting, George and Timothy displayed a lack of expertise, but were already assured of a tender with the Niger Delta Amnesty Program. This well before any documentation had been filed.
The clear brief that they just only had at that time, it was that they were going to be given the contract by government, and they just wanted us to do everything, and which we did.
So it's people who are going to be given a contract to the government before they even put a concept document?
Most certainly.
When you're thinking about this whole process, you cannot really avoid thinking about corruption, because in my view, there might be some parallel channels that are being used by some individuals, both in Nigeria and South Africa, to bring in people who might not have anything to do with the amnesty program, criminals, or those who are looking for greener pastures. So it can provide the framework for manipulation, and that will create a problem that we are now identifying and facing.
As soon as everything was now in place, Marcus' company was immediately fired, as Westgate preferred to renegotiate deals directly with the local service providers. This was in disregard of a 6-month contract worth over 90 million rands.
It was one of the most traumatizing experience. What was supposed to be a developmental program for our African brothers, it really became a playground for monies being exchanged in front of us, without by senior government officials in Nigeria, by companies in Nigeria operating in South Africa without even a proper business permits, and also being pushed aside by these companies when we demanded only what we have worked for.
My suspicion, the way I see it, Westgate is their front company.
Meanwhile, now teetering on the brink of bankruptcy, Kunene reflects on his decision to re-engage Hard Novo. He explains how he was scammed.
I've been paid $125,000 US. That was only the deposit of the training. I've got an invoice that I emailed to the company itself, which is 450,000 US. He came to me, he said, change this into 250,000 US. And I did. And then later, he came to me and says, you've been fully paid.
He alleges that corruption by top Nigerian government officials is at the heart of the problems faced by South African businessmen involved in the Niger Delta Amnesty Program.
I think there's a scam and there's a lot of fraud that is involved in it. And that this must be investigated.
The program for me, it is nothing else but just to enrich certain individuals within government. Only Nigerian companies, not even the South African companies, that are benefiting from this. We have more than 10 companies that are in the problem that we are facing now with debts.
All of them South African.
All of them South African companies that have been dealt the same way that we have been dealt with.
And that's the reason why at the highest level, both states agencies need to be involved and have a coherent strategy in place to deal with those incidents to avoid embarrassment for both Nigeria and South Africa.
Coming up next, we confront those involved.
While local businessmen grapple to come to terms with the losses made in the Niger Delta Amnesty Program, the absence of clarity from the South African government has further exacerbated the problem.
The Nigerian learners, all these guys, including our service providers, the people that are giving us these trainings, they always saying the government, the government. Now, when they're talking about their government, where is your government? Where is my government?
Special Assignment tried to get answers from the South African government. This man, Kleso Monyela of the Department of International Relations, declined to comment, saying the Niger Delta issue was being handled by the Department of Defense. The Department of Defense showed surprise when approached for comment, arguing Niger Delta was a bilateral issue which has nothing to do with the army. So who exactly is responsible for this program? Meanwhile, what remains unclear is to what extent are top Nigerian government officials involved in the dealings done by companies like Hadnovo and Westgate. Under scrutiny is the role played by Kingsley Kuku, the special advisor to the Nigerian president on the Niger Delta Amnesty Program.
Honorable Kingsley Kuku, with the ambassador in the conference room, assured me that no, please, you are dealing with our people here. These are our people. Don't worry, you'll get your money in full. Even whatever that there will be damage here, you will be paid for.
He appeared as a person who's here to assist and to provide a political leadership. And even at times when he reassured us that we will get our money, we continue based on his word that we will get our money, you know. And even the last visit, after addressing the students, he came to me and said that he will want to see me the following day. And when I phoned, I was then told that the minister has nothing to say to me. I must take the company that I entered into the contract to court.
Kingsley Kuku has since distanced himself from Westgate, even going as far as cancelling the company's contract with the government. But who is Westgate? We have tried to trace Westgate Unique Alliance Limited to no avail. While in South Africa, its directors seem to suggest that they were registered in Nigeria, our investigations have found no record of their registration there. At the dissolution of their contract with the Amnesty Program in Nigeria, the Nigerian government seemed to suggest that the company was registered in South Africa, but all this seems not to be the case. So how did a company with no track record, no company registration papers, end up doing business on behalf of the Nigerian government? We phoned Nigeria to find out from George Udo, one of Westgate's directors. What are your feelings about the dissolution of your contract with the Nigerian government?
I'm afraid I'm not going to comment on this.
Where is your company registered? Is it in South Africa or Nigeria?
these are the information I said my lawyers will brief you.
Oh, okay. But your company, is it registered?
Forward me your phone number. I'll forward it to my lawyers. You get all information you need from them.
Next up, we spoke to Niger Delta Amnesty Program spokesperson Henry Ogolu over the Westgate Company saga. What resulted in the dissolution of their contract?
If you're going to be involved in training, you should be in position to offer first-class service. They were offering first-class service. That's why the contract was terminated.
Where are they registered?
Yeah, I believe they are registered both in South Africa and Nigeria, of course.
Okay, because
they wouldn't be doing business in South Africa if they were registered in South Africa.
We can confirm definitely that they're not registered in South Africa.
My friend, if they're not registered in South Africa, it is allowed. They definitely may be in partnership with another South African firm. That is a common law.
Honorable Kingsley Kuku has been to all these companies that have been affected and he has assured them that they will be paid. What do you say to that?
No. If you went there, we can only go to companies when we had our boys. But you couldn't have vouched to pay Westgate debts when the Amnesty Office not owing Westgate. You don't understand? It's not possible. Government. We are a government. We don't work like that.
The Institute of Security Studies points out major failings in the implementation of the program. This has seen dozens of these militants being deported from countries across the world for unruly behavior.
There will be a need for global monitoring of the activities of those people, because if you don't, having been used to weapon and having knowledge about armed trafficking, oil trafficking, any kind of trafficking network, see, you cannot beat the natural habit that have been consolidated over the years in one day. And it will be in the interest of both countries, of all countries involved, to make sure that they monitor the security aspect of the behavior.
However, it is not all doom and gloom as thousands of these militants graduate different institutions across the world. After decades of war, hopefully through this program, the Niger Delta can have a new beginning.
Well, who do you think should take responsibility for this sorry state of affairs? Let me hear your views, and you can do so by tweeting under the hashtag Special Assignment. You can also Facebook or email us. And you have a chance to call in on this matter on my radio show that's on SAFM Radio on Friday just after 2 p.m. Well, on to comments about last week's program on the illegal smuggling of tobacco. Dwayne Fenter emailed to say if SARS would stop trying to disregard us as the hard-paying taxpayers, things would be much better and the illegal trade would end. And there's an anonymous email from George saying, we buy it here from George. Also, 9 to 10 rands a packet. Good smokes. Well, remember that you have the opportunity to get another viewing of this show and previous ones on the SABC News website. That's sabc.co.za/news. And do email us if you have stories you believe we need to investigate. Well, that's it from me. Join us again next week when we point out the issues that matter.